Welcome back. Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television. This edition of the program I have with me Mike. Mike, so have we?
Yeah, good morning, sir. Good morning to our viewers out there.
Well, we'll get started as usual from a local scene, and the Athletics Championship seems to be having a change of venue. We've had two venues where we've seen what they call Season 1 and Season 2 being concluded. But it looks now that the third and the fourth leg of the School Athletics Championship may just have to change. We are no longer going to see it in Port Harcourt and Kaduna. Now we understand Jos will host the next leg, which is the third leg of the competition, while the grand final, which is in Season 2, will be held in there. What do you make of it? Port Harcourt out of it, and now it has to be Jos and Cross River State Calabar, to be specific.
Well, I think Port Harcourt out of this very one is not a good one for us, because at least we should have been able to boost many economical activities out here. But then the organizers as well, they have not actually given a reason to the change of plan out there. But then I feel it is for the betterment of the organization, or the competition rather. That is why they have to shift it to, Calabar and the rest. But then I think whatever what doing is what doing well. If actually they sense any form of, maybe it's not going to augur well in the place that they have, pre-planned before, I think there is need to also shift it to a venue where, they'll have proper organizational structure out there. But then I think it's not a good one for, PH City, talking about Port Harcourt here, because like I said earlier, it should have been able to add one or two, economic activity down here in the States.
Well, when you bring a or be part selected for the African Games only recently concluded in Accra, Ghana?
Yeah, definitely. We saw a few of those beneficiaries out there being selected for the All-African game that took place out there in Accra, Ghana a few months ago. And they actually gave a good account of themselves as well. So for me, and this is the need why we keep harping that we must also go back to the grassroots and try to, churn out talent from the grassroots, because they are bound out there. It's just that many times opportunities are not given to them. Proper scouting is not done, and also proper organization, and also to be able to at least form a mini competition for some of these local athletes out here, to be able to at least get the best out of what you have here, because you have great talents cut across every state here in the country out there. But then I think since John Owaneno came into office, he has been able to also do pretty well in that area of trying to develop a sport holistically, and that is what it is for us to go back to the grassroots and begin to churn our talent. We saw a couple of them took part in the just concluded African game in Ghana and did pretty well out there. So for me, this is the way to go. If we continue with this trajectory in the next 2-3 years down the line, then possibly we'll be talking about Nigeria, dominating the continent of Africa, just like what we saw with what the Egyptians did in the just concluded All-African game out there in Ghana.
Nigeria School Sports Federation consciously looking at talents at a very young age, and we've seen them now begin to organize competition across the country aimed at picking the athletes very young. These athletes are put through world timing, because we understand the electronic timing is being used in this event, aimed at ensuring that whoever meets a particular time, that time can be competitive and of course seem to be comparable to wherever the time that is used anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think it's a great one for me, because without a proper timing, then we will not get to know the strength of some of these athletes on their own. Without proper timing on their own, they would think that they've done an incredible job. But when you get to the world stage out there where proper timing is being used, then they will discover that their effort, has not been able to match up with that of the world. So I think it's a nice one that the Athletic Federation, of Nigeria is doing the needful by making sure that we organize our thing in a way that it can be able to align, with the international best practices out there.
Something very interesting for me, besides having these athletes, dressed, groomed, or even fished out early from the schools, the under 12, under 13. We've seen a category, for the under 20s, those who are in the university, or even out of the university, or even belong to private clubs across the country, being given their own sphere as well to compete at these school sports federation events.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a nice idea because it's about carrying everybody along. It doesn't matter if you belong to primary school, secondary school, or one, organization.
There's competition for those in schools, and of course those out of school as well,
yeah.
maybe belonging to private clubs.
Exactly, because some of those of them that
still within the age of 20 or under 20.
There are some that are not in school, so it is also needful to also organize this kind of competition because we have talents band out there that you are probably not in school doesn't take away the God-given talent that is embedded in you. And I think for me, it's a nice idea, throwing everything open so as to be able to get the best out of what we have here. I think it's a nice idea.
Nice idea, no doubt about it. Even nicer is the fact that Favour Philly is now going to the Olympic Games in Paris, courtesy of the Tom Jones Memorial Classic at the weekend in Florida, that's in the United States of America. Favour Philly was able to post a time good enough to see her participate at the Olympic Games. 22.33 seconds, that's quite an Olympic timing. Good enough for her to be part of Team Nigeria going to the Olympic Games.
Definitely, massive one for Favour Philly. They even beaten, the benchmark set by the Paris, Olympic game organizers of 22.57 seconds out there. But Favour Philly actually beat this very timing and reduced it to 22.33 seconds. For me, I think it was very, very impressive display out there, beating some of the top names out there that he's from United States of America and the rest of them out there. I think Favour Philly is on the rise, and I tell you, if she continue to maintain this fine form, then we might possibly also be banking our hope on her at the Paris Olympic Games to get us gold medal out there.
Talking about the Paris Olympic Games and Team Nigeria, Favour Philly is the athlete number 7 to qualify for this year's Olympic Games, joining Toby and Musa, Dose Ibadi, Ruth Osoro, and of course Chukwubuka Nekweche. Favour actually, of course, did earlier qualify, while Ezekiel Nathan still at the weekend, was part of those who will now be, donning Nigerians green-white colors at the Olympic Games. We hope that this Olympic Games will see Nigeria come to the podium because we've seen a lot of Nigerian athletes qualify, with relative ease for these Olympic Games.
Sure. Looking at their performance so far from this, ongoing competition out there, it clearly tells you that indeed they are hoping to go out there and do us proud. And of course, most of our big names, who are doing pretty well out there, have also, gotten the ticket or qualify for the Paris Olympic Games. Just like you mentioned earlier, the likes of Toby Amoshun, Nekwechi, Ruth Usoro, to mention but a few. These are some of the greatest prospects that we have here, that will be very, very hopeful that they are going to do us proud out there. And I'm very, very proud to see most of them making it through to the Olympics.
Track and field we should be featuring over 7 Nigerian athletes, and of course don't forget too that a very high contingent, up to 6 wrestlers, will be representing Nigeria at the Olympic Games, and of course there's high medal hopes in that area. We're talking about Nigerians, making waves in the world of sports, especially at the weekend. We saw 2 Nigerian high jump champion, Mike Edwards, who has now taken just electric song from athletics and venturing into professional boxing. This is unheard of, moving from athletics to boxing. Mike Edwards, I remember him, he did take part in, I think, the Big Brother Nigeria show.
Yeah.
Now he's venturing into cruiserweight division of boxing. Can he survive the punch that comes with this one?
I think that is a very big question, but then when I learned of the news, I think for me I was taken aback because this is a different terrain altogether that he's trying to venture into. We've seen other sportsmen and women, leaving their area of, comfort to delve into a very strange area. We've seen some of them done great things out there. Talking about Francis Ngannou, who left the UFC down to boxing out there. But we say that there is a little bit, relation between UFC, talking about the octagon, and boxing. The difference is just that you cannot use your leg or elbow in boxing, but then punches is also allowed. So you see that similarity there. But then for an athlete to leave the track and field down to boxing, I think that is very, very strange for me. I don't know how he's going to cope with this, but then I think he has taken his decision. All we can just do is to wish him well, but then if he can be able to take the blows, the punches that come with being on the ring, that is left for him. I strongly think maybe he has done a background work on himself and also get a nod from his spirit that indeed he's going to survive out there, and that is why he's venturing into the arena of boxing. Let's hope that he can be able to sustain it.
Edwards, no doubt about it, known as a high jumper in the world of sports now, still clinging to yet another sports discipline from high jump, where he scaled a height of 2.25 meters at the national championship in 2021 and 2022. Now wants to go into boxing in the cruiserweight division. We'll try to wish him the very best of luck. But we've seen him as well showcase his talent in acting, like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. He took part in the Big Brother Nigeria show, and now he not only missed a gold medal at the 2022 championship, and now he wants to go into cruiserweight boxing. Like Mike did say there, we would like to wish him the very best of luck. It doesn't come easy. He's a British Nigerian. He only recently
switched allegiance to Nigeria in 2018. I think for me, it's been quite impressive what he actually achieved at the track and field. Talking about the athlete, he did pretty well for Nigeria as well. I think this fine form we saw him display at the athletic event out there. Let's hope that he can also, continue with that positive mindset down to the, ring out there, where he will be ready to take up, blows and punches out there.
Well, we wish Mike Edwards the very best of luck in his new sports discipline. From high jump now, he's going to cruiserweight boxing. And talking about boxing reminds me that at the weekend, it was a very good development for Nigerian boxer Ife Ajagba, heavyweight boxer, no doubt about this. I'm not cruiserweight. He claimed a split decision victory over Guido Venali of Italy at the American Bank Center, Corpus Christi, in Texas, in the United States of America. Now, Ajagba is now unbeaten in his last 5 bouts in heavyweight boxing.
Very impressive for Ajagba out there, and I think this is one boxer we need to watch out for. His victory over the weekend has actually made it 20 wins for him out there, and that includes about 14 knockouts out there. So it tells you of how impressive he has been on the rise so far. I think for me, though it was a keenly contested encounter out there, we saw the first quarter where he actually got 96 over 94 against his opponent out there. And for me, it was a very, very close encounter, but then he was able to, hold his own and came out victorious in that very one. I think it was an impressive display from Ajagba.
Ajagba, Fred, if Ajagba, 20 wins, now no doubt 20 wins in his heavyweight boxing career that I've seen as 14 of it end in a knockout and only one defeat. We hope that this Delta State-born boxer who won gold medal at the 2015 African Games and of course bronze at the 2014 Commonwealth Games during his amateur days will continue to rise in their, in profile in heavyweight boxing. The Italian, I'm very sure, should have felt the punch from Ife Ajagba. Talking about Nigeria making wave in boxing this hour, we remind, it could just bring us to the fact that Brazil Alex Pereira has pulled off a stunning first-round knockout victory over Jamal Hill to retain the Ultimate Fight Championship light heavyweight title. This is different from, boxing itself. We were talking about the Ultimate Fight Championship. You could use your leg and you could use your elbow. This was different from what we see in the normal boxing ring. But the Ultimate Fight Championship 200, which took place just about a few hours ago, I've seen Pereira show his stuff.
Yeah, very impressive display from Pereira coming up against Hill, who also is a very strong fighter out there. You remember what he did in 2023 out there, where he also won this same category out there, and they expect him to come very strong against Pereira. But then I think Pereira had a different game plan as well, as he actually went out in the first round of that game, taking him down on the canvas out there and dismantled him. I think he had to take the intervention of the judge or the center ref rather to also come to his aid. If not, it would have been a total pummeling, out there. But then I think Pereira actually gave a good account of himself, coming up against a Hill who is a very stubborn and very dogged fighter out there. I think it was an impressive display from Pereira.
Pereira doing so well in the Ultimate Fight Championship 300, and I'm very sure the American will have felt a pinch of the power of Pereira. Meanwhile, let's go to tennis now. And in tennis, Nigeria's sole flag player at the International Table Tennis World Cup Macau, Aruna Quadri, has been drawn in Group 15 of the men's singles, as Nigeria will slug it out against Portugal's Marcos Freitas and Daniel Gonzalez from Puerto Rico. We've seen that for the 8 players being drawn into 16 groups of 3 players in each group, with the winner to each group advancing to the second round or stage of the competition. Can Haruna Quadri continue to make Nigeria proud in this one?
Sure. We are keeping our fingers crossed. Looking at his form so far this season, we say yes, that he has what it takes to also be able to come out from this group, because the group contains, houses about 4 different, tennis players out there who can also hold their own any day, anytime. But looking at the form of Haruna Quadri, we will definitely say yes, he's tipped to come out of that group successfully. But then you can never tell. This is a game of tennis. You need to also prove it out there on the court before before he can come out of this very one. But then looking at the lineup here and other African players, I think we say that it's a very tough draw for African players out there. But then don't forget the fact that Haruna Quadri also is the first African also to get to the quarterfinal of this very competition. And he's no stranger to the ITTF World Championship. He's been there over time. So with a lot of experience that he has garnered so far, I'm tipping him to at least go through this very stage and clinch and get to the next round.
If Java definitely will have to start today against Portugal's Freitas, and in his last group match it will be tomorrow against Puerto Rico's Gonzalez. We wish him the very best of luck. But when you talk about Haruna Quadri, you remember Omar Sarr, the man who has conquered him in Africa, so to say. Omar Sarr and Ahmed Salem, of course, Beleda, are both drawn into Group 16, 11, and 9 respectively. Omar Sarr definitely, like I said, if you talk about Haruna Quadri, you have to talk about him. He's another very strong African representative when it comes to the International Table Tennis Championship.
Definitely, you can't mention any other African tennis player out here without mentioning, Haruna Quadri and Omar Sarr. And of course, these are familiar foes. 2 of them, they actually understand each other. You saw what Omar Sarr did to Haruna Quadri in the just concluded African game out there in Ghana, where he was able to, deny, Haruna Quadri of the gold medal. But then I think Omar Sarr and the Egyptian, they are on the rise, they are on the surge when you talk about tennis as well. Most of their 3 key names out there, they've been doing pretty well, when you talk about male tennis players out there. But when you talk about male tennis player here in Nigeria, I think the only name that stands out most is our own Haruna Quadri. But the Egyptian, there seems to also be pulling some strings out there. So looking at the contingent of the Africans, especially the Egyptian, I think they also have a good stake in making it through to the next round out of this group.
Talking about Egyptians and getting it right in the table tennis reminds me that 3 Egyptians and a Cameroonian will represent Africa in the women's singles event, and we just hope that we'll find a Nigerian female as well continue to sprint and of course do well in the table tennis. This is not very good news when it comes to it. Haruna Quadri might soon retire. We don't seem to be getting the new name that will be taking over from him. In the female category as well, we are beginning to see the death of, young and exciting female tennis players from Nigeria.
Yeah, I think I'm worried as well when you talk about the male category of tennis player out here. The quest to also find a replacement for Haruna Quadri, we've been talking about this over the past couple of months right now. I think we need to do the needful to also find a possibly good replacement for Haruna Quadri, because if he exits the stage right now, I think we are going to struggle. You saw what happened to us in the last 3 months, where a Nigerian contingent that was due to take part in one international competition or the other, just because of the fact that Haruna Quadri got food poisoning 24 hours before the championship. We were unable to win even a single game out there, because he was like the captain of the team. He's the captain of the ship out there, and his presence was missed in that Nigerian contingent in that international outing. But for the fact that he got food poisoning 24 hours before that competition, we were unable to win just a single game. Just imagine if Haruna Quadri decided to retire today. Who is the next Haruna Quadri that is going to take up the baton from him? I think we need to dig deep and be able to start, sourcing or looking out for some of these replacement early, so that they can also be learning under the tutelage of Haruna Quadri, so that even if he gets to retire, we'll be rest assured that indeed we have other prodigies that is going to take his place.
Well, let's go to tennis now. And in tennis, the Monte Carlo Masters has been concluded out there in France, and Stefano Tsitsipas is no doubt the winner, courtesy of that 6-1, 6-4 victory over his opponent, Casper Ruud. No one had expected that Stefano Tsitsipas would come this far, but he's done it at the age of 25. Opening stage was really, really good for him, and he took to the 7th position right now in world ranking in tennis.
Yeah, very impressive display from Tsitsipas out there, and I think immediately he was able to, dismantle the likes of Zverev and Yannick Sinner. I knew it that he was going for the final.
I had really thought Yannick Sinner will win this one. I've given his form.
Yeah, even before his game against Yannick Sinner, I actually wrote off, Tsitsipas in that very one. Looking at the form of Yannick Sinner so far this season, you want to say yes. Yannick Sinner has the upper hand against him, but Tsitsipas, proved so many doubters and bookmakers wrong out there when he was able to defeat Yannick Sinner. Immediately defeated Yannick Sinner, then that confidence began to grow, and he also got to the final. And for me, it was an impressive display. Because of that victory, right now he has joined the likes of Rafael Nadal and Thomas Muster to have been some of the players that have won this championship about 3 to 3 times. So for me, I think it's an impressive record for him. Let's hope that he can continue in this fine form going forward. If he actually continues in this fine form, definitely I see him, making possibly, 5th or even 4th in the ranking, having, jumped to number 7 right now, courtesy of his impressive display so far in the last a few weeks. I see him making top 5 or even top 4 in the nearest future.
Well, we'll say congratulations to Stefano Tsitsipas, the man from Greece who has won it at the Masters. And next attention for top tennis players will be the Barcelona Open, where we understand the homeboy, Carlos Alcaraz, has withdrawn, but one man will be there, Rafael Nadal.
Yeah, I think it's a disappointing one, starting from Carlos Alcaraz, who also will not be taking part in this very one, courtesy of that injury, that arm injury that he got. I think I'm very disappointed, because looking at the way he's going about this time around, he needs some of this game to be able to catch up, with other players out there. Don't forget, he has now shifted from world number 2 to world number 3 right now, courtesy of his late blip in performance. So for me, I think it's a disappointing one for him. But then, talking about Rafael Nadal, can he be able to bounce back very strong after we've seen him pull out of some of this competition courtesy of injury? Rafael Nadal, since he came back into the court after some of this injury setback, he has not been able to replicate the form that we know him of the past. But this time around, for the fact that Carlos Alcaraz will not be taking part in this very one, can he actually take this advantage? Can he make good use of this opportunity by going all the way to the final and possibly lifting it? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. And time for us to take a break. When we return for the break, we'll go to the ever-busy world of basketball. You know that it is getting close to decision time, or do I say the business end of the NBA. And then there's top preparations for the basketball league here in Africa. It looks like Rivers Hoopers seem to have suffered a little bit of a setback. And beyond that, we go to football, where Liverpool and Arsenal have suffered setback to their Premier League title at the weekend. But across to Germany, Bayer Leverkusen has won the Bundesliga's title with several matches to go for the first time in their 120 years. A lot to talk about in football when we return from the break. Stay there with us.
Telling him not to counterpunch. Telling him not to counterpunch.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Telling him not to counterpunch.
Welcome back. This is Sports Talk here on Atlantic Television Network. I will be bringing you up to speed with the latest happening around the world of sports. And now we'll have to go into golf. And talking about golf, the Augustus has come to an end, and at the Augustus National Club, and one man has won it. Everybody knew that it was going to be definitely Scotty Scheffler. He won it back to back now, and it couldn't have been any better. Right from the beginning of this Augustus, at the Masters in Augusta, everybody knew that he was in the lead, and with just one lead at the Sunday final, he triumphed and to emerge, no doubt, as the second, that's it, yes, the fourth youngest golfer to win at the age of 27. The man from Texas, Mike, like I said, everybody knew he was just going to win this one, given his form coming to the Augustus.
Yeah, for Scheffler, I think it has been an impressive ride for him so far this season. I think it's on a world of his own, just like what we are seeing is in the Formula One, where Max Verstappen seems to be on a world of his own. Is what Scheffler represents here in the golf. Starting the season very early, you saw his impressive display, and the odd was very high on him to actually coast home this very one. I did not disappoint out there. I think it was an impressive display for him, and breaking creating history for himself out there. Let's hope that he can continue in this fine form come next season.
Well, the 8th Augustus is come and gone with Scotty Scheffler, one man regarded as the best golf ball striker after we saw of Tiger Woods. You know, getting it there at the Augustas. Back-to-back winner, and this is his 5th time at the Augustas, and he's won twice. It doesn't come very easy for you to win twice, you know, only on 5 trials or attempts at the Augusta. No doubt he's #1 golfer, you know, in the world right now, and he's been #1 for 80 weeks.
Very, very impressive. I think it tells you about his form so far. I think the only man who stretched such record last time was Tiger Woods. But then I think for this young lad, he's creating a huge record for himself out there. He's able to carve his name in the sand of time to be able to match up or be in the class of Tiger Woods and the rest out there. Let's hope that he can continue in this fine form. Like I said earlier, there are other golf players out there who are already looking up to him as their role model, you know, out there. And for me, it's such an impressive display at his young age this time around. There's still age ahead of him, so he still have much to offer in the world of golf.
27 years of age, and besides, I think Tiger Woods and 3 others, no other one has been able to win, you know, at the age of 27, especially back-to-back at the Augustas. We say congratulations to the #1 golfer in the world, and I wish him well there. Let's quickly go to basketball. And talking about basketball, it was a weekend to forget for the Senegalese champions, US Donets, as they failed in their bid to winning title. This coming ahead of the basketball league here in Africa, which should be taking place any moment soon in the Savannah Conference.
Yeah, not a good one for them, and of course, you know their quality, what they bring to the table. But this one is going to serve as
Yes, Donets of Senegal.
Yeah, it's a big setback for them because just like you said, the Basketball African League is just by the corner, and other teams that is also in the same group with them will also be keeping close tab on their performance so far, just like what we saw with Rivers Hoopers, who also couldn't defend the Louis Edem Invitational Tourney, which they were the defending champion, but they failed to win this very one, making it fourth out there. Our opponent as well will be also looking into our camp, and that is what also happened to US Donets, where you expected them to also defend that very one, because they've been able to create a huge history out there in Senegal, as one of their favorite basketball team out there. But then I think this one is also a setback. But I also think that in a way it is also going to let them know that they still have a lot of work to do before the Basketball African Leagues commenced.
Talking about Basketball African League, we have US Monastir of Tunisia, Johannes from Senegal, and I think what's the other club name to play in the Sahara Conference very soon. We'll see them compete with our own Rivers Hoopers. How prepared are the Hoopers?
I think for the Hoopers, they are pretty much prepared. They've signed about 3 good quality players so far to add into their rank, and we saw them taking part in the Louis Edem Invitational Tourney out there, where they're able to also, try their best. But like I said earlier, they couldn't defend their title. We saw a few days ago, the authority of the Rivers Hoopers talking about the Kingsmen. The 3 players that have signed so far this season linked up with them in the cap to start preparation in NS for the Basketball African League. So for me, I think preparation is on ground now. I had the sport minister talking to one radio sister station the other day about their willingness to support Rivers Hoopers, and also the Nigerian Basketball Federation as well, also doing their own bit to also ensure that they support Rivers Hoopers, because they are not just representing the states, talking about Rivers State, but they are representing Nigeria, as a whole. So they need all the support right now to also do well at there. But talking about their preparation, I think for me, it's been very, very good.
Good preparations for Rivers Hoopers ahead of the Basketball League Sahara Conference, where they will take on the APR of Rwanda, US Johannes of Senegal, and of course US Monastir of Tunisia. Meanwhile, basketball classifications are beginning to emerge in the NBA because the season is the regular season is coming to an end, and we saw Victor Wembanyama score as many as 34 points as San Antonio Spurs did. Do I say stink Denver Nuggets to open up a race for top seed in the Western Conference? What's happening to Denver Nuggets? It looks like closing into the end of the regular season, they are dropping points.
I think I'm very surprised. For me, in their last 5 games right now, they've actually been struggling. And for me, I don't know what seems to be the reason. But their coach talked about the fact that they need to, pick up that momentum where they actually started the season very, very strong. But at the tail end of the season, they seem to be, struggling, dropping points. I think for me, it's not a good one for them. But then we've seen, Oklahoma City, Timberwolves as well, setting a record of making it as and becoming the third team to, also be on the same point at this point in time, for a quite long time in the NBA. And for me, it is even more competitive when we are having 3 teams going for the jugular, with just 1 game remaining. But I think Oklahoma City now has the advantage position, courtesy of, their way. Their away victory. I mean, talking about the head-to-head, they are ahead of Denver Nuggets and the Timberwolves right now, but all of them at pair with each other as it stands. But for the head-to-head, superiority, I think Oklahoma City have the better part. But for Denver Nuggets, I think it's been disappointing. Like I said, in their last 5 games, they've actually been struggling.
Well, across to the Eastern Conference, Sixers, yes, they seem to be doing well. 107 points over 86 over win over Brooklyn Nets. This is a cheering result for the Eastern Conference leaders.
Yes, very cheering one. I think they've been doing pretty well so far. In their last 6 games, if I'm not mistaken, they've only lost just one of those 6 games out there. So I think they also understand what it means to be able to put your foot on the pedal and continue to throttle very hard at the tail end of the season so as to ensure you finish very strong.
Very strong result there at the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee Bucks doesn't seem to be fighting very hard this time around, but they are still possible to at least get into the play-in tournament.
Yeah, still very much in the fight for, the tournament, at least to finish very, very strong before talking about, the playoff. I think they can also beat the playoff margin by making it through first and allow others to fight for the playoff. For the regular season, they've been doing very well. They've been fighting so hard to come back very strong. Though they did not start the season very good, but it looks as though as some of the games continue to come along, they continue to find their mojo. So I think it's a great one for them.
Very great one for Milwaukee Bucks there as well, trying to ensure that they finish very strong at the end of the regular season. Just about 3 or 2 games to the end of the regular season, and we'll get some good results there. Meanwhile, let's look at football now. And talking about football reminds me that the Federation Cup has come and gone at the state level. And Rivers United, no doubt, has emerged as winners of the Federation Cup here in the Rivers State.
Yeah, good one for Rivers United after disappointing outing at the Confederations Cup out there where they were knocked out by the Algerian side. Coming back home as well, I think they need this kind of victory to also spice them up or to boost their morale, to see if they can be able to build up from this victory, heading into some of the games, the outstanding games that they have. Don't forget, they have about 5 to 6 outstanding games in the NPFL to play so far. The season is actually coming to an end, and of course, looking at where they are seated on the NPFL log is not a good place for a team such as Rivers United. Having about 5 to 6 outstanding games doesn't mean 3 points in the bag, so they need to also continue to fight from all fronts to ensure that they pick up this valuable point from the remaining outstanding game. But then, like I said, I think this victory is going to spice them up to fight, for some of the, point that is remaining in the top flight league.
Well, let's quickly, because of time, look at the latest happening around the world of football, especially in Europe, and see where victory will go. It looks like Manchester City now is at the driver's seat of winning the Premier League title, aftermath of defeat suffered by Liverpool and Arsenal at the weekend. Liverpool playing at Anfield lost. Yes, they're playing at their own home ground, Anfield, lost to Crystal Palace. The first time Crystal Palace will do that in their career, winning at Anfield, and it's such a crucial tie as well. Beyond that, at Emirates Stadium, yes, the home of Arsenal, it didn't look good for them because their former coach, Unai Emery, came with Aston Villa and Pumel Arsenal late by 2-0. With these 2 defeats, Manchester City, who worked their opponent by 5-1, Now he has a 2-point gap on the top of the Premier League table.
I think I was taken aback with the result of Liverpool at Anfield and Arsenal. First, let me start from Liverpool. Liverpool actually fell to the firepower of Atlanta in the Europa League over the midweek, where they lost 3 goals to nothing at at their home ground out there. And there were the talk that it is their opponent, next opponent in the EPL, that is going to suffer the loss. That they fell in the hand of Atlanta. But then I think Crystal Palace had a different game plan altogether, as they were able to hold their own and hurt Liverpool in the title chase for Liverpool. I think it was a quite disappointing outing. You heard it from the voice of Jurgen Klopp out there immediately after the game. The players out there looking at their countenance in their face in the pitch of play immediately after the last whistle. It clearly tells you all that indeed their destiny of lifting the league is no longer in their hand, as they actually fail to capitalize, on that 3 point over, Crystal Palace. So for me, I think it's going to go down to the wire. Then for Arsenal, I'm very, very shocked, because the first leg against Aston Villa actually defeated the same Arsenal in their home ground, as they're taking all 3 points. Now, coming back to Emirates, people thought that maybe Arsenal was going to take a pound of revenge, but then they also faltered when it matters most, dropping all 3 points at home. In the dying minute, I think for me it was quite disappointing, but then you can't take away from the tactical prowess of Unai Emery, who also understands the Arsenal team as well, having been a former Arsenal coach, an experienced coach as well, who has won the Europa how many times out there in Spain. So I think it was a very good result for Aston Villa, who also is fighting so hard to finish within the Champions League spot. And of course, if you dig deeper, you understand that Unai Emery actually understands Mikel Arteta, because 2 of them hails from almost the same community out there in Spain. In short, it takes you about 16 to 17 minutes drive, to get down to the village of Unai Emery, and that is how close it is between him and Mikel Arteta. And also coming to the Premier League, a league where they actually, have been able to understand themselves. So I think that also played in the advantage of Unai Emery. But for Mikel Arteta and Arsenal, it's a quite disappointing one, looking at the fact that they are still going to face the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Manchester United, the likes of Tottenham. We were sure that Arsenal is certainly going to drop points from these top 3 teams out, and it's going to be a very big blow in their title chase so far.
Well, another very difficult end of season for Arsenal there. They just have to fight back, but with about 5 games to the end of the season, can they wrap up all 5? That will be determined by the kind of opposition they will meet and how they bounce back. Hopefully, they should be in Europe in the next few hours from now, in UEFA Champions League, and they have the German side to contend with. Meanwhile, Manchester City now seems to be in the driver's seat with 2 points gap between Arsenal and Liverpool and them.
Yeah, I think it's a great one for Manchester City. When they were actually struggling, where they were about 6 points adrift of the league leader at some point in time in this campaign, there is a talk that Manchester City can no longer defend this very one. But then, at that same critical point, Pep Guardiola came to the media. He made it emphatically clear that Manchester City was still going to win the league, and people thought that it was a joke. But then we've seen how the table has turned around right now. They are in the driver's seat right now, and as it stands, when Pep Guardiola get to this kind of situation, and when he get to this kind of time at the end of the season, always be rest assured that he will do everything possible, to ensure that he get all 3 points against some of these, middle table teams to ensure that they are crowned champion. And for me, I think, honestly speaking, since Pep Guardiola came into the English Premier League, he's been making the English Premier League look more like a farmers' league. This is one of the best leagues in the world. This is one of the most competitive leagues in the world. But for Pep Guardiola, I think he's making the EPL look more like a farmers' league. If he get to win this one for the 4th consecutive time, no clubs in the history of the EPL have done that before. I think it was Manchester United that lifted it, the first time, second and third. That is about 3 good times, and which Pep Guardiola has equaled. Now he's going for the 4th one. If he does this, then the talk of EPL being one of the hardest league in the world, I think for me will have a question mark.
Well, talking about the EPL, getting a little bit decided there with a 2 points gap between Liverpool and Arsenal as compared to their points with the top place team, Manchester City. Well, like I said, 5 more games to go in the end of the season. We'll see where it pans. Will there be a crack somewhere? This is football. No one had expected results that came through at the weekend in the Premiership in England. Well, there is a little bit of gnashing of teeth in the Premiership in England for Arsenal and Liverpool. It was a very joyous moment for Victor Boniface and, of course, Teller. These are Nigerian players who play for Bayern Leverkusen. For the first time in 125 years, Bayern Leverkusen have emerged as winners of the Bundesliga title. This is their very first title in the Bundesliga, and it was courtesy of a 5 goals whacking of the opponents at the weekend in Cologne.
Massive display from Bayern Leverkusen and Xavi Alonso. I think they're doing an incredible job.
Xavi Alonso, his very first top job, in coaching.
Yeah, and one thing very striking is that when he took over this Bayern Leverkusen side in 2021, they were actually battling for relegation, but he was able to bring them out of that water of relegation. In 2023, he was also able to take them beyond where they are, where he gave them an Europa qualification out there. This is 2024. He's gone in for the league. I think this man has a Midas touch. There's something that he's doing that possibly I don't understand yet. Having played 29 games, winning 25, drawing 4, and in all competition, he has actually played 43 games without losing any of those games. The only team in the whole of Europe or top 5 leagues that have not lost a game so far. I think for me, it's an incredible result for Bayern Leverkusen. Since 1904, when the club was won, they have not laid their hand on the Bundesliga, but Xavi Alonso has come to rewrite the history. I think for me, it was an impressive display.
Apart from not winning the league in 120 years of their existence, Bayern Leverkusen now has ended the 11-year reign of Bayern Munich as champions of the league title in Germany. A lot to talk about this feat achieved by the man who only a few days ago was being courted highly by Liverpool, but he had to turn that job to say that he's going to stay with Bayern Leverkusen. A former Liverpool player, no doubt about it. So now 11-year reign of Bayern Munich has ended in Germany. There's a new name now in German football. That name is Bayern Leverkusen and not Bayern Munich. Well, a lot to talk about in football, but don't worry, we'll have Sports Extraordinary coming at 6 p.m. when we'll take a look at the top leagues. Here in Nigeria, the Premier League title is chase is still on. Who gets it with a few more matches to go? Across in Europe, in Spain, Real Madrid seems to be getting closer by the day, just like we know in the French league. Paris Saint-Germain too seeming to be getting it ready. In Italy, Inter Milan as well is trying to keep very strong hold on the league title there. So a lot to talk about. We'll look at all the top 5 leagues in Europe and, of course, the Premier League here in Nigeria. And this is take a peep at who will win it at the end of the season. But like we said, it's already decided in Germany with Bayern Leverkusen, and we hope we can get more results. In Italy, like I mentioned to you, is Inter Milan, and in France, it is Paris Saint-Germain. But we'll tell you how it is at 6 p.m. Nigerian time on the program Sports Extraordinary. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.
Killing him, not the counterpunch.